Going into a practice where you're potentially training with either weaker or stronger players, what is it that you're looking for to get out of any given day's practice?
So,
or what is the mindset going into a practice really sort of that psychologically gets you ready to prepare for something bigger, which is like the Australian Open or international events?
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I want to make sure that I do show up for every practice, like we kind of were discussing. Because if I don't show up for practice, I can't show up for my match. It's really hard to replicate the pressure you do feel in a match. So I'll be honest, when I started my first matches in the qualifying, I felt super tight and nervous because I wasn't able to do any of that in my practice. So there's that sort of difference, but also like, I don't know, you do want to have your intensity. So it's before each practice, I make sure I do like my full physical warm up and I get myself in the right headspace. I show up at practice early enough. I don't treat it as just another day because what this pandemic has taught me is that I'm really lucky to have these opportunities to practice because not everyone across the country can practice. Not everyone across the world can practice.
Right.
So very fortunate, and I need to treat it as a privilege. So like some days I won't show up as much. I'll be completely honest, but on the grand scheme of things, I want to make sure that I give my 100% effort because I know that other people are showing up for me and giving me these opportunities as well.
Right. And that's sort of a nice part about having that team around you where, if you don't show up, you feel a little bit of a responsibility because they're showing up.
Yeah.
And I know the professionals that you mentioned, Sergey, Roberto, like those guys, they show up.
Yeah, and they're very passionate people and passionate coaches, and they want their players to succeed. So I know that they're showing up 100% for me and everyone that we train with every day. So that if I don't do my job, I'm almost in a sense disrespecting their time and their effort. So that's why I want to make sure that I'm not just playing for myself. I always play for myself, but being in that team environment, I'm playing for them too. I'm playing for the 10-year-olds who are coming to practice and looking at our playing, and like the other kids I train with who are teenagers. That's it. So it's like not just for me. It's like So that's why I enjoy the team environment. It's not just yourself. It's because tennis is very individual. It's a big kind of thing.
Right. And I know that you're a big role model for younger kids as well growing up, but also many adults that I speak to and that I see day to day when I mention, oh, I'm speaking to Rebecca, and they go, oh, she is so nice. People take that and they view someone like you when they show up to a tennis club or a tennis court as that role model of this is what someone can portray, and this is an international tennis player that is here in front of us, and yet the person that's at a club that's an intermediate tennis player, gets that respect from you. And I think that goes a long way.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what I try to portray. I am just a person. Like, you take away my tennis, like, I'm
of course,
like any other person, right? So I don't think, I respect people equally, I try to show that. So that's a nice way to say.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. So, when you were younger, we crossed pathways a few times, and I remember people saying that, that you were quite a perfectionist. Is that correct?
Yeah, it can be to a fault sometimes. A little bit of a perfectionist, but I think that's also helped me in terms of honing my craft with the tennis. Yeah.
Yes. And so, what sort of roadblocks did you have through your development, given that you're a perfectionist and, mistakes don't come easy to perfectionists. And, when you're on the court teaching someone that feels that way, sometimes it can be a challenge, but also it's a positive, and it can go both ways, like you said.
Yeah. I mean, so with that perfectionism, if you're not getting something right away, it can be super frustrating. And sometimes you can question the process that you're going through. And question what the coach is trying to implement sometimes. And a lot of that is just like having to 100% put yourself into what you're trying to change. So whether it's like technically trying to change a forehand or your server, or insert whatever the person is trying to change, you have to like go all in, trust the coach, trust yourself that through the process, like you will get there. Easier said than done, but
I can hear it in your voice there, of course, and it's a challenge even if you just think about it, which is interesting.
Yeah. So, but it's also just like putting it in perspective that it has to be a long-term sort of development. So I think I feel really lucky that my parents sort of gave me that perspective when I was younger. They're like, it's okay if you don't get it right now, and it's okay if you're not successful as a junior. Like, look at this long term, and like just try to enjoy the sport, and like you're the driving force, and it's your motivation. So take it wherever you want it. And so yeah, I feel like that's how I was able to sort of maneuver that, as you say, perfectionism or that perfectionist quality, and sort of allow it to bring me some success. Sometimes it's a bit stubborn though.
But that's just how it is, and you find often, the most successful people are the ones that are so super driven internally, yet been given that opportunity to go, you know what, it's okay, it's up to you. You're the driver, you're the one in the seat.
Yeah, and I think that's really important that you have the internal drive and motivation. It can't be from anyone externally, because then you're kind of doing it for the wrong reason.